Hey yo, good afternoon viewers of YouTube. My name is Tyler and welcome to the channel that gets under the skin of some of the biggest name in the crypto space.
Let's talk about Chico crypto just for a moment. Why would I reward someone who lies and who's scum? You know, fuck them.
Today, we aren't going to be getting under the skin of anybody, but going to be analyzing the crypto markets, specifically the market mover Bitcoin, because it's the longest standing, liquid, and most widely used crypto in existence. Although the ideas in this video do not apply only to Bitcoin, but can be applied to the crypto markets as a whole. Bitcoin could falter and potentially not be able to scale for mass adoption, and another crypto could take its spot. And we would expect that crypto to act in the same manner as Bitcoin has. But since Bitcoin is creating second layer technologies like the Lightning Network and sidechains, we can assume it will scale, leading to near universal adoption. So what does universal adoption look like? Well, for one, you have to go from zero adoption into complete adoption. Back in the day, in my marketing classes, while getting my MBA, we studied this concept repeatedly, the bell curve of adoption. Now, where are we in this adoption curve? It's hard to say exactly, but BitcoinMarketJournal.com took data points from many different places, number of Bitcoin wallets in existence, random polls, exchange users, and more, and came up with their own rough estimate. They estimated, based on these figures, just last month, that there's about 25 million Bitcoin users globally. The global population is estimated to be over 7.714 billion in 2019. Take 25 million, divide it by 7,714 million, and we get global adoption of Bitcoin at not even 1%, more like 0.3%. I know many people around the globe don't even have access to internet or technology yet, thus they couldn't be considered as potential users, but we are assuming eventual universal adoption, and this data was put forward to show you that we are still most likely in the innovators or just crossing into the early adopters stage. If this bell curve represents total adoption of a population at a given time, then you can make the assumption that you get an S-curve of adoption over that time. I'm sure most of you can understand why it's called an S-curve because of its shape, an S. You can define the S-curve as a period of slow ramp up and then exponential growth where it goes vertical and majority adoption is rapidly gained. The S-curve has played out many times with other technologies that were near universally adopted, as we can see from this chart. Everything from the telephone, automobile, electricity, refrigerator, microwave, VCR to current technologies like the cell phone and internet follow that curve. What is interesting is as time goes on, technology advances, communication improves, and building the tech becomes cheaper. This leads to these curves becoming more compressed, with much quicker and drastic vertical growth. As we can see from technologies like the car, telephone, airplane, and even electricity, it took many years since the product was invented to reach vertical growth. But this started to get compressed with things like the TV, personal computer, mobile phones, and the internet. Now, Medium writer Michael B. Casey, on Twitter he goes by the name @TheBlackMarble, wrote a piece on this back in December of 2016. Even before the triggering of the last bull run bubble. He exclaimed that Bitcoin is following the standard S-curve, even though it may not feel like it because the price is so volatile. Even with this volatility, he says that once Bitcoin hits the final majority mass adoption, all present day and past volatility will look small in comparison. Michael says Bitcoin is characterized by multiple bubbles, where the price rises and falls steadily for some length of time, then explodes 5 to 10% per day for a sustained amount of time, eventually resulting in combined upwards of 1,000% over its previous value. This is usually what we like to call the parabolic bull run. These bubbles are built on speculation, not on actual fundamentals and growth of the tech, even though there is some of that. A tipping point is eventually reached where the sellers outnumber the buyers and this bubble pops. This results in a price coming down to a range above the pre-bubble price, but a whole hell of a lot lower than the peak. This is when the media and naysayers start to speak up saying, "I told you so," and Bitcoin is dead. Let's hear what the Wolf of Wall Street, Jordan Belfort, had to say about this most recent bubble.
Hey, this game is over. That's what's going on right now. And I'll say it one more time. I have never bought. People think I'm trying to drive down the price to buy it. I wouldn't buy this shit with a 10-foot fucking pole. I wouldn't touch this stuff. It's smegma. It's crap. It's worthless. Okay?
How about a recent interview with Warren Buffett?
I'll ask this very fleetingly. Has your position changed on Bitcoin?
No, I mean, it's too bad, but Bitcoin, it's ingenious, and blockchain is important, but Bitcoin has no unique value at all. It doesn't produce anything. You can stare at it all day, and no little Bitcoins come out or anything like that. It's a delusion, basically.
There is a website, 99bitcoins.com, which saves all the times media has called Bitcoin dead. And as we can see through the 2018 bear winter, many headlines from mainstream media outlets called for Bitcoin's death. These naysayers are usually wrong, and eventually Bitcoin stabilizes in a range for some time, which Micheal terms the boring low, or what we like to call the accumulation zone. Good news or bad news doesn't really seem to affect the price at all during this time. Then the market starts to view the price as stable, and speculative investments return. This leads to the next stage, what Micheal calls the Volatilic rise. The price starts to stair-step its way back into the vicinity of the old all-time high. Once the price reaches about 80 to 90% of the old peak, the bubble cycle starts over with another parabolic bull run. These bubbles, defined by the Bitcoin price, follow the typical Gartner hype cycle. You have the technology trigger, but with Bitcoin it's called the parabolic bull run. You have the peak of inflated expectations, which is the Bitcoin price peak. You have the trough of disillusionment, which is the crash and boring low. And finally, you have the slope of enlightenment, or the volatilic rise. Micheal states that unlike the full Gartner hype cycle, a Bitcoin bubble does not reach a steady state of gradual increase, like the plateau of productivity, but starts the next bull run as it must continue to follow the increasing path of the S-curve. The reason Bitcoin follows the hype cycle so closely is because the nature of Bitcoin as an investment. It is driven by speculation, and speculation is driven mostly by hype. Micheal then goes on to explain that exponential fractal patterns define the Bitcoin price over time, represented in exponential Bitcoin bubbles driven by the Gartner hype cycle. In his Medium piece, he illustrates the similarities of the fractal patterns of the multiple Bitcoin bubbles, each growing larger than the one before it. As we can see, starting all the way back in November 2010, Bitcoin bubbled from 15 cents all the way up to nearly 40 cents, following that hype cycle. This bubble led up to the January 2011 bubble, where Bitcoin smashed through that 40 cents level all the way up to nearly $1.10, before coming back down to below 70 cents. Now let's look at another picture of that January 2011 bubble without the 2010 bubble included. This January bubble led to another parabolic bull run, the June 2011 bubble, one of significant magnitude. Bitcoin went from the low of nearly 70 cents to nearly $30 in a matter of 6 months, before a major crash back down to $2, but still following the Gartner hype cycle. Now let's look at the June 2011 bubble without the January bubble included. This bubble led up to another parabolic bull run and the February 2013 bubble. From just $2 Bitcoin at its low to nearly a high of $220 Bitcoin in a year and a half's time. Then it crashed back down to $70 and started to recover. Let's look at that February 2013 bubble by itself. Now, this directly led up to the November 2013 bubble, where Bitcoin nearly reached $1,100 before crashing back down into the $200 range at its low. What is crazy is Micheal wrote this back in December of 2016, where the last chart image leaves off and Bitcoin was just under 800 bucks. Micheal was predicting that this was going to happen again and exclaimed we were in the middle of the volatilic phase and there would be another crazy bubble that ensued. The guy was spot on. But we can expand this out now since another Gartner hype cycle bubble has happened. Here is the November 2013 bubble by itself. And now here it is leading up to the December 2017 bubble, which most of us were a part of. Shockingly similar to all the bubbles that came before it. And now, according to Micheal, we are most likely in the boring low. It's hard to say when the next parabolic bull run will come, but I personally believe we have at least 2 more of these left before Bitcoin flattens out as mass adoption takes over. One thing we can take from this is as time goes on, the bubbles do seem to get more spaced out, so we may have to wait some more time before the next bubble. I would say definitely past 2020 and maybe all the way to 2022 and beyond. Although this means the accumulation phases grow larger and gives people more time to accumulate at way better prices, which in the past only lasted for a couple of months to a year. Am I accumulating? Oh hell yes, because like Micheal said, once majority adoption comes, previous volatility will look small in comparison. Next parabolic bull run, $200,000 Bitcoin? Hey, it's not out of this realm of possibility. Cheers, viewers. I'll see you next time.